Lots of the prayer breakfasts in Washington, D.C. that's being held right now. People have arrived, and they are obviously already at the podium. The president is expected to speak any moment. It is the 61st National Prayer Breakfast. The Vice President, Joe Biden, is there. The First Lady, Michelle Obama, is there. President Obama, as I mentioned, is going to speak in just a couple of minutes. 3,000 people in the audience, 140 countries represented. It is described as a nonpartisan event, and right there's
It's described as a nonpartisan
event. I said.
event.
It's described as a nonpartisan event. Explain to me, and obviously we'll take the president live as soon as he starts talking, but what is the point of addressing this breakfast?
Well, it's interesting that he's doing this, right? I mean, historically, this is a breakfast organized by conservative religious leaders every year. Presidents have participated for a long time. Every president usually speaks.
The Fellowship Foundation runs it, right?
The Fellowship Foundation runs it, right? They're a conservative religious organization. And it's important for government and religious leaders to have a dialogue. But it's gotten a little dicey recently because this organization that organizes the breakfast has been linked to the promotion of anti-gay laws outside the U.S., especially in Uganda.
But there's a political process as well that we're watching here, right? It's not just about talking to this particular organization. The fact that the messaging is important too. It's an opportunity for the presidents to come and talk about faith in this particular forum.
Yeah, it's a little odd that this group has continued to sponsor it. There's some controversy surrounding them, but it's one of the few events in the spring of spring season of Washington politicians, Democrats and Republicans getting together at these things that endures, and you have people from both sides of the aisle usually talk. And every year there's some controversy in the faith community where the president, where we wonder, is he going to bring up issue X? This year, right? It's gay marriage,
well,
right?
And that's because ever since he talked about his support for gay marriage, that was back in May.
Yeah,
he really hasn't.
Right. Most dramatically.
But he hasn't been in a setting like this,
right? So
where
is there
he has
any
an opportunity to speak to an audience that probably does not.
How likely is that's going to happen?
It is not going to happen.
You don't think he'll bring up at all?
No, I don't think he's going to do it. I mean, I think it'd be great if he did, but I think it's too in your face. It's not the kind of dialogue that they have.
What is, given the fact that this is an audience that is listening to words about faith, right? The whole entire point is to speak about either your personal faith or issues of faith that are under discussion right now. What do you expect that he's going to talk about?
I don't know that he'll talk about gay marriage necessarily, but this is a time where he has a platform to talk about equality for all Americans. I mean, as a country, we've always been about equality. I think he'll make that the focus. Obviously, we know what he's referring to. He's going to be referring to gay marriage, that he wants that done in the next 4 years. But I think you guys might be right. I don't know that he will address it head on, but he will beat around the bush.
It's generally very apolitical when presidents talk at this prayer breakfast. It's a time to talk about why faith is important in one's own life, but very rarely do they get up there with an overtly political message and talk about the details of his agenda. Look, he's going to have the State of the Union next week. He had it as an inaugural address recently. This isn't the time where he's going to get into those details.
By the way, the president has talked about faith a great deal from way back, even before he was president. He had a very proactive outreach to evangelical groups that a lot of Democrats don't normally go after.
Let's get to Breonna Keeler. She's at the White House. And Breonna, I want to bring you into this conversation, but I also want to warn you that we're watching the live pictures as they are introducing people on the dais. And so, of course, as soon as the president comes up to start talking, I'm going to jump in and we'll take that live. Give me a little sense of what you're hearing will be his focus today.
Well, I don't think, I agree with the panel. I don't think that he will be so overt talking about his views on same-sex marriage. It would be very much in your face. And I don't think this is really the group that he would be trying to sell his views on same-sex marriage to, so we're not expecting him to necessarily try that. I think you might hear him speak in broad tones about inclusivity, but that obviously can mean a number of different things. It's not Soledad that he hasn't at times sort of jumped into the fray during this prayer breakfast. In 2010, he actually criticized that anti-homosexuality bill that was being considered by Uganda's legislature, but I just think today that we might not be hearing that. Last year, he talked certainly in evangelical tones. He talked about his personal spiritual experience, about how he wakes up in the morning, has a brief prayer, spends some time in devotion and scripture. So that was actually really fascinating to hear him kind of talk about his own process. And also, I have to tell you, Soledad, something that just fascinates me as I'm watching this, and I see Jeff Sessions there at the podium. The sort of fascinating thing about this prayer breakfast is you have the president there with someone who is criticizing one of his his nominees. So this is certainly an event that kind of brings some strange bedfellows together, and we're watching that play out right now on the screen.
Well, that's interesting because even in the bigger, even if you sort of widen out from the president and Jeff Sessions in the shot and you sort of look at the audience, it also is strange bedfellows, isn't it?
This is a hostile audience.
And Sessions is one of Obama's fiercest critics in the Senate. I mean, recently he's been going after Obama on immigration. Name the issue that Obama has championed. Sessions has been one of the leaders in the Senate, just hitting him. He's one of the most conservative senators. So yeah, I find these events sort of interesting. And
I was going to say they're whispering to each other as we get ready for the president to come and take the podium. He's going to make his remarks. This is the National Prayer Breakfast, 61st annual prayer breakfast. I guess it's presidents since Eisenhower have attended. We're expecting to hear from the president in just a few minutes, so we continue to monitor it. Andrea Bocelli has just taken the podium there, and he's singing.
Del mio platano amato, per voi risplenda il faro.
As we leave you with Andrea Bocelli singing, and he is not lip-syncing apparently, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll bring you the president's remarks at the National Prayer Breakfast Live. We're back in just a moment. Stay with us.